Microphone check 1 2. Check 1 2. Check. Check 1 2. Check.
We're going to call the meeting to order, and we're going to start with the Curriculum Policy Committee. And the first item on our agenda is my future NC presentation by Ms. Tony Blunt. Is that right, Blunt?
Blunt. Thank you.
You can see it up here.
Okay, very good. So it's a pleasure to be with all of you and the audience. I'm Tony Blunt. I'm from my future NC. And I work in the Southeast, so I cover the 12 counties that match with NC Commerce Prosperity Zone. I reside up in New Bern, but I've had the pleasure of being in your community for the last 2 days, so thank you for having me. So my future NC works on the session law that was codified into law, bipartisan, 100% supported and signed by the governor in 2019 that says for North Carolina to remain economically competitive as a state by the year 2030, we need 2 million 25 to 44-year-olds with an industry valued credential or a 2 or 4 year degree. I'll go on further to say that that degree or credential would lead to a family sustaining wage job. And so a lot of this work came from the fact that NC Commerce Secretary Michelle Baker Sanders has commented in many arenas that has said we have an incredible state community college system, an independent college and university system, council of government, workforce boards, all the municipalities and county government, and the UNC system. And with all of this in place, we have businesses wanting to come to North Carolina. So for 2022 and 2023, North Carolina was the top state for business. It was just announced last week that Virginia beat us out for 2024, but it was going to be 3 years in a row. But we're still one of the most robust education and training infrastructures in the nation. So we can, just as a review, 58 community colleges, 20 workforce boards, the 36 privates, the 16 publics, and out of those, 10 are historically black colleges and universities. So incredible work in this infrastructure of educational attainment from education to workforce. So how are we doing towards our goal? So the goal is 2 million by 2030. We announced in February that the state is at 1.6, and so we're lagging behind about 391,000. So the green dotted line is where we should be at this point. The red dotted line is where we are. And so just moving along with business as usual from now until 2030 without considerable county collaborations, it's predicted that we will fall short. And so a lot of this work came out of North Carolina's leaky pipeline. And so if we took 100 ninth grade students across the state and measured them towards earning a degree or credential, we have found that of those 100, 14 will not graduate high school within 4 years. Of those 86, 36 will not enroll in a post-secondary institution within 12 months of high school graduation. Out of the 50, 9 will not persist into their second year. Out of the 41 left, 11 will not earn a degree or credential within 6 years. So that leaves 30 out of 100 ninth grade students across our state that are not earning a credential or degree within 6 years. And so when we look back at this slide and where we're going to fall short and how we can look at our systems of the leaky pipeline, we can potentially look for some answers to this. In this presentation, there's an embedded link that you have access to. We won't show it at this time, but it's basically what I just said with 100 ninth grade students videoed on a gym floor, and those are leaving the gym floor as we advance through the data. So it's pretty powerful and important that folks know that this is public-facing video. It was created in Lenore County Schools, but for the entire Southeast to use if you ever need to use it. And so what is my future NC's role in all of this? So we do a couple of things. We monitor and report progress. You have a data profile in front of you. This is one way that we monitor and report progress. And for those of you in the audience, every county in North Carolina has a profile. It's on a dashboard. It's downloadable. There are other data sources as well, but that's one of the things that we produce. We also identify and advocate for policy solutions. So when I'm in my region and the other regional impact managers are in their region, we're listening for barriers and challenges to educational attainment. And then we're taking that back up to our headquarters and working that through the chains in the lobbying system. So we want to hear what the barriers and challenges are for all of our communities so that we can make positive change. And then we accelerate action. So an example of that is like just meeting Dawn here this morning. We've worked together and bits and pieces of material through CTE, regional things, and I'm hearing what she's doing. I'm sharing the great work that I'm hearing from Brunswick County, and then I'm also bringing back ideas to other folks when I'm in community. So accelerating action is important. From the monitor and reporting progress, there's 18 key performance indicators on this sheet, and they're also on our dashboard. And so academic readiness is the one that's most closely related to the work that you all do. But the college and career access data is also how do students graduate and what are their plans after graduation. Post-secondary completion is not only enrolling in either credentials or degrees, but finishing. And then the final is important to the entire community, that the jobs that are open in Brunswick County are filled with qualified credentials or degree folks. And so we monitor all of those indicators. As I said, there's a Brunswick County profile, but there's also a North Carolina profile that you can do a good comparison to. If there were a city school district here, there would be a city school district profile. So if you happen to look at a neighbor and notice that Columbus County not only has a Columbus County profile, they would also have a Whitehall City. And then if you had 5 or more charters in your district or in your county, then you would have a charter school profile, and that helps school systems pull out the students that are not actually attending and puts them in their own. And so there's a Southeast Regional profile, a Cape Fear Workforce Board, and a Council of Government. So lots of these attainment profiles. So I'll just point out a few things on this profile that I'd like to bring your attention to. So I've circled the top red goal for Brunswick County. So if you take the 2 million and you give every county their piece of the pie, Brunswick County would be 22,373 credentials or degrees. The second circle are the folks that have not obtained those credentials or degrees. And just to the left of that, as of the 22 data, so we should be getting another data upload on this soon, there are currently 12,365 credentials and degrees in Brunswick County. So there's a gap of about 10,000. And that gap could potentially be solved by the 8% less than high school, the 28% graduates or GED, and the 16% that have some college, but they didn't earn a credential and they didn't earn a degree. And then that's your target group. And then Carolina Demography, out of the UNC School of Government, that puts this together for us. They are able to identify, based on all of this data, what are the top 3 areas for growth that if you took a look at this across your county and worked with other cross sectors, these are some potential things to focus on. NC pre-K enrollment, chronic absenteeism, and then high school graduation rate. Surely there's a lot of good things happening, and I'll point some of those things out. But there's also, it's good that they're able to pull out what they see as some of the most important things to take a look at. So just looking under college and career access, and you're going to find that on the second page, or the back page, middle of the page. This is 2023 data. I've circled it at the top, and this is so one of the highest indicators of a student matriculating to a community college or a university is if they've done their financial aid. And so the financial aid federally is called the FAFSA, the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. So 59% of your seniors who graduated in 2023 completed one of these documents online, compared to 62% statewide. There has been a real challenge this year across our country with financial aid. And so seeing lower rates this year is not uncommon across the state. So, but there is a lag. And so if you look at the bottom of the screen, I've taken some real data from 2023 and added it here. This says 628. I was able to pull a new data on Monday that did not get into this presentation. So the state a week ago was at 46.2. This week it's at 48. And then the completion rate for Brunswick County graduates that just graduated is right now at about 38%. And then you'll see how that breaks down on the schools on the right. And so the NC FAFSA tracker is fascinating. It downloads directly from the State Education Assistance Authority. That's what that acronym is. It will update every Monday, and I'm pleased to say that Brunswick County Schools was in a My Future NC FAFSA pilot this year and received some funds to do some work to help accelerate this. Now that the graduates are on their own in terms of seeking help from the community college or their universities, we were also able to secure some additional funds to say every one of our districts that work with this pilot program, we are encouraging to try to at least get to the state average. And so that pilot is still continuing throughout the summer. And then working with the community college yesterday, they are ready to receive and work with all of the seniors who have yet to complete this document. Also on this profile, you'll see the plot graph, and that's just, I've put arrows there to show you who are the 4 lowest enrollment rate demographically. So we're looking at low income, Hispanic, and Black males, and that is not uncommon for the entire southeastern part of our state. Almost every county has that same enrollment data.
Can you tell me again, please, the NCSEAA, what is that?
North Carolina State Education Assistance Authority. They are the state agency or authority on all financial aid. They administer the state grants to the community colleges and universities that then disperse it to the students. And so they own and operate the North Carolina FAFSA tracker, and they pull their data weekly from federal student aid.
Okay, so the numbers over there for our particular schools represent percentage of
the graduates
that have received assistance?
that have completed the actual document and submitted it to the federal government.
Which is a different number from FAFSA.
So FAFSA is the form,
Okay,
and those are the percentages of students that completed the form. Once they complete the online form, they select the colleges that they want it to go to, and then off it goes to get processed, and then they receive a letter or something in their college portal that says you are receiving this grant or this scholarship, and this is how you break it down on what you're going to pay for college.
well, there's some difference in that number, in this number here, and in the FAFSA number at the top.
Right, the FAFSA
So
number
help
in
me
the top
understand
was
that, yeah.
2023, so that was 2023 graduates. What
Uh-huh.
you're seeing at the bottom is a screenshot of this week's work. So this is 2024 graduates. There was a lot, the FAFSA in 2023 did not have the data delays that it is having this year because the form has not changed over 40 years. And it changed in October. It didn't open up in October like it does every year. It didn't open up until January. And so that's causing a lot of disruption with these numbers. But now the form is correct. It is open and ready for students to complete. Now we just need to keep emphasizing to students the importance of making sure they know what aid is available for them to make the decisions to attend. Did that help?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm probably coming up on my 15 minutes. So I'm gonna zoom through. Okay. There's a lot to share, and I'm always happy to come back and do a really deep dive into this with your leadership and your board. So under academic readiness, this is the 3rd and 8th grade reading scores. It's pre-K data. It shows your student to school counselor ratio of 364 to 1. It shows your dropout rate of 2%, and then your school choice. And then I really like this added on feature to this year's profile, which is access to post-secondary credits. So we're able to track, based on the information that each school system produces and sends to like DPI, the number of CTE credentials you're awarding, the ones that were industry valued, how many concentrations, and then the top 3 concentrations, human services, agriculture, food and natural resources, and health science, and then the number of students that took AP testing and who engaged in career and college promise. And so I'll also list, or just share that the NC Careers Credential List, which is now on the NC Commerce website, is something that teachers, CTE folks, families are going to be using now for the mandatory career and college planning for all middle and high school students. The landing page for that is NC Careers, and they're able to say what foundational, essential, career, and advanced credentials are. So when we think about the options of students that are not interested in a 2 or 4 year degree program, then we think about what credentials are necessary for them to go right into the workforce. And then just sort of summarizing some of the K-12 initiatives that my future NC has been in conversation with, and that's the career plans, work-based learning, career and college promise, and then of course I've already mentioned the FAFSA pilot that is happening currently. And so just a final summary, I hope that you will champion your local attainment goal of 22,000, if not even the stretch goal of 22,613. I hope as a community and a board that you'll use the county attainment profile and other data sources as you see fit to your work, and that you'll also leverage me when you can and as often as you need to come in and help you just look at all the data from a strategy point of view, and also looking at all the other cross-sector community involvement. So I'll just say quickly that over the last 3 years in this position, we have an endorsement template, which is used when we do presentations. The county commissioners from Brunswick County have endorsed the work. Brunswick Community College, the first in the community was Brunswick County Schools about 3 years ago. And 2 chambers have endorsed the work, the Oak Island Chamber and the Brunswick Chamber. So there's lots of cross-sector awareness of the state educational attainment goal and the local goal. So I hope this last few minutes has just brought you up to date about what this looks like from a state perspective and a local perspective. And if you have not yet, I encourage you to subscribe to the newsletter. So thank you so much for the invitation to be with you all.
Before you go, on a previous slide you had schools by percent, that one right there. Is that the number, the percent of kids graduating who filled out the FAFSA form?
Correct. In 2024, this last graduation class.
Okay. What are you suggesting a good percent is?
So ideally, before August, I would love for every student that is interested in a 2 or 4 year college to complete a FAFSA. Because with the next NC scholarship, which we are in the first year, if a family's adjusted gross income is $80,000 or less, they will automatically get $5,000 for a 4 year university in the UNC system and $3,000 for any community college. And that is money that does not have to be paid back.
Is that per year?
Per year, and that's stackable with other grants. So if they qualify for the Brunswick Guarantee, they'll use those monies first. The Brunswick Guarantee sits on top of that for a cost-free education. So there's no reason why any student that is pursuing 2 or 4, unless they have a building named after them somewhere and can write a check for any amount of money for anything, should be completing this document just to find out what they qualify for. They don't have to accept it, but at least they'll know what they're going to get if they decide to go. Students that are going to short-term workforce programs would not necessarily qualify for federal aid, so they wouldn't need to, but say they decided to go into a diploma program once they got started. That if the form's done and it's good for a year, then it's done for them for that year. So I can't give you that percent unless I knew what percent of your graduates are doing that.
So, for example, West Brunswick's on the bottom at 30%. Do they have the figure at West Brunswick of those seniors who told them they were going to 2 or 4 year?
So that's in the Bound For report that's required by DPI at the end of every graduation year. So yes, it's student self-reported unless your counselors use some kind of documentation.
Well, yeah, they probably do, but there's a state survey
So
that asks the kids.
they
that
have a
question.
number of a goal they are shooting for.
Correct. And NCSEAA, the state authority, gives every school district, every school counselor, the ability to download a finished FAFSA report, which is a list of the senior class, who has completed a FAFSA and who has not. So they have the data for direct student information.
And a lot of times, it has to do with parents and students thinking that if they fill out the FAFSA and they get awarded money, that they have to take it. And they don't realize that they don't have to accept it. They can walk away from it. But it's just good to know that you have that available to you. So that's sometimes I have found as a high school principal, that was misinformation out there, was people
Right.
said, if you fill out the FAFSA and they give you all this money, they don't give it to you. You have to accept it in order to get a check.
So because
But
of,
you have to pay it back.
Some of it.
only if it's a loan, but the Next NC Scholarship is what I mentioned earlier. It is money that does not have to be paid back. It's a grant.
So let me ask you a pointed question.
Yeah.
Is 30% versus 43% at another school, is that a telling factor?
Well, I mean, I think the story to me is, I would have to have the comparison of how many students actually want to pursue. And if that's equal, then that is a story. Because then we have produced some videos this summer that are student, like TikTok videos. I sent it to Mr. Pascal. And they are student influencers, like college level students, and they did short, quick little videos in English and Spanish that are being spread across the state, and he has access to that. There's 9 videos. Students like short, quick bits of information to encourage them or influence them, and so these were created for this purpose, to send out through every community, and they're simple. I mean, there's students saying to other students, hey, 2 out of 3 of your friends are not completing the FAFSA. Do you know that that's free money for college? You know, just simple, short, quick bursts of information. So there's some strategies happening right now that your counselors have access to.
This is back to my previous question, so I'm a little bit confused. So down here, we got 37.4%, which I guess is you've taken all those numbers there and you've come up with the county as a whole at 37.4, which is down from the previous year, 9.4%.
Correct.
Okay.
At the same date and time.
59% completed FAFSA in 2023. That
Yes.
looks like it's down 21%.
Well, 59% was in the end of August, early September, after the full summer. We still have the summer to grow this 37%. So come the end of this FAFSA season, that's what will be compared to the 59.
Okay, so the 9.4% decline is
based
to
on
date or based on the
6/28/2023.
Okay.
Whereas the 59 was based on September 2023.
And then you said that these numbers have been negatively impacted by some rollout issues or something.
Correct.
So they're somewhat of an outlier to start with,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
This year.
And then his question about what the goal is. You say up here the state goal is 80%.
The state goal has been 80% since 2019. That has not changed.
Okay. And that's 80% of the graduates or 80% of those who have indicated.
Of all high school graduates, because we know
Of
there will be
all
some to go
graduates.
to military and some doing other things.
Okay.
Yes. That's a lofty goal compared to where the data has been hitting every year, but it's still that North Star.
Okay.
Yeah.
Last quick question.
Yeah.
They can still, even when they're in school, if they haven't completed the FAFSA before they enter college, they still can apply while they're in college, or what is the cutoff, or is there
So
a,
if they're seeking financial aid before the semester starts in August, they need to do it now. Takes about 3 to 5 days for federal aid to process, and a few days for the college to process it. That's about a week and a half. So if campus starts around mid-August, these seniors need to get in there now and get it done, just in case they need to verify any documents.
so if they don't get it the first semester, can they apply the
They
second
can-
semester or any time during
They
the
can
year?
continuously apply. And because the
Right.
college offers like the A and B term, if they don't get it done before August and get it done in September, they could qualify for B term funds.
So that would still add to this percentage
it's
down the
never
road?
too
I mean,
late.
it's, yeah.
Never
Okay.
too late. Great questions.
Well, we've made a lot of improvements in the percentage of our students that have earned college credits through Career and College Promise.
Yes.
This year, that's gone up, and the number of credentials that students have earned in our CTE classes has gone up quite a bit, and we continue to work on improving those. So Brunswick County is working on doing our part.
And that's making college more affordable because
That's
they're
right.
getting all of those free while they're in high school.
That's right.
And they're better equipped once they become an independent learner.
And they have the confidence to know that they can do it
Yes.
as an adult. So,
Thank you for this opportunity.
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next is the AIG update. The good doctors are here.
That was a show, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Good doctor, yeah.
All right, good morning.
Morning.
I'm Leslie Newman, and this is Michelle Bennett, and we are here to provide some updates about AIG and advanced studies. So we just wanted to start by framing this around our mission and vision. We're at a point in our AIG plan where we are reviewing data and kind of examining our effectiveness at this point before we begin a rewrite year and submit for our new plan moving forward. So our mission and vision really focus on increasing access and opportunities to optimize performance and potential for all advanced learners. And we're going to continue to advocate for student opportunity and representation as we prepare college and career-ready citizens.
So along those same lines, we want to look at identification. And with our current plan, which is 2022 to 2025, so the end of this coming school year, we made some changes to our identification practices so that we could implement some broader pathways to provide opportunities and access for more students who are at potential. Oftentimes we look at providing things for at-risk students, but we also want to look at those at-potential students. And by at-potential, we mean students who are at potential to succeed and be successful in advanced coursework. So that's what we were looking at. And so you have access to the presentation, so you can click on the roadmap and see that a little bit more effectively. We won't waste your time with doing that right now, but basically with this current AIG plan, we added a pathway 4, which provides additional opportunities for access to advanced coursework through things like portfolios, coursework that's already been completed, also through like top 10% of your class. So it's not dependent anymore on just standardized test results, because we all know that not all students are good test takers. They may demonstrate in other areas their ability to exceed expectations many times. So what we want to do is share some data. This is from 2022-23, which is the first year of our current plan. And you can see that in our elementary and middle schools, we tested students for AIG potential identification. At each of these schools, you can see the numbers. We tested a total of 350 students. 143 of those students met assessment criteria for potential AIG identification in reading and or math, so that's 41% tested. Of those tested, 106 of those students were recommended for the AIG talent pool in reading and or math, so 30% of the students that we tested out of those 350. So then when we go to the next slide, you can see for this school year that just recently ended, we tested 416 students, so that's an increase in students that were tested. And when we say we tested students, these are students that we provide either the Iowa assessments, which is a grade level achievement assessment, or the cognitive abilities test, which is an aptitude test. And this is outside of our 3rd grade universal screener that we do every year. And so you can see that of the 416, that's up from 350. 188 of those students met assessment criteria, so that's 45%, an increase. And then 154 students were recommended for the talent pool. So that's 37%, also an increase. So we're excited about that, and one of the areas that we did not collect the data that we should have is in our underrepresented populations. And so this year when we begin our testing, that's another thing that we're going to look at, is those underrepresented populations and how those students are faring with additional testing. So that is the testing, and then Leslie is going to talk to you a little bit about some recognition and programs at the state level.
So a couple years ago, DPI implemented a new program called the Call to Action, and it's a framework for improvement and actionable next steps for districts and schools to realize equity and excellence in gifted education. So this became part of a 3-phase plan. So the first phase was this release of the call to action, and what it did was outline really concrete steps that districts and schools can take to realize this idea of equity and excellence in gifted education. We are currently ending up phase 2, which is promising practices. Promising practices was something that DPI released to help additionally guide districts. And what it did was recognize 15 districts within North Carolina that were implementing and in the process of doing some things to address what was called for in the call to action. And Brunswick County Schools was included in those 15 school districts, and we'll go into that a little bit in a minute. Phase 3 will begin at the end of next school year, and so that one is looking at promises delivered. So out of this call to action and the promising practices, what promises have we been able to deliver? And Brunswick County Schools is in consideration for being recognized for a promise that we have been able to deliver to the students of Brunswick County Schools. So just a little bit more about the promising practices. So BCS was recognized for 3 of the 6 critical actions in the call to action. And again, this was 15 school districts recognized across the state during the 23-24 school year.
I have a question.
Yes.
And I don't know which one of you. Can you go back 2 slides? In this call to action, the last part of that, the effort to increase access and opportunities. Is there some way that access and opportunities are being limited that I'm not aware of? Or I'm not always, I see that phrase a lot when it comes to equity matters in education, and I'm always left with the question: how is that put into practice in Brunswick County, increasing access and opportunity?
Sure. So Michelle's going to describe some of the steps that we've taken that could address your question, but I think also in regards to what Michelle was speaking about a moment ago, in this district we used to solely use testing. A one-day assessment to identify AIG students. And now, through these additional pathways, we've opened up this door for collections of student work through a portfolio, through examining students' previous progress through their class rank or their GPA. And so just opening up the way we look at what makes a student perform or have the potential to perform above their grade-like peers.
Yeah. And that cognitive aptitude test, I mean, isn't that one of the reasons you use an aptitude test, is because aptitude is measuring sort of your innate learning ability?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is that something that we should be using more? I mean,
yes, right now we do use it as a screener.
it doesn't look like we use it a lot relative to the Iowa test.
Right, to the Iowa. So we use it as a 3rd grade universal screener. So in October, all of the 3rd graders will have the opportunity to take the cognitive abilities test. Those that won't take it will be parents who choose to opt out of having their kids take the test. So it's not a requirement, but it is something we offer. And then the reason that the COGAT or the cognitive abilities numbers are lower in the charts that I showed you is because that's when we use it sort of like as a supplemental. So for 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade students, if they request testing, if their parents would request it, if teachers recommend it, then that's one of the assessments that we offer. And oftentimes they choose the Iowa first for like grade level achievement to see where students are. And then after the Iowa, if we need additional data, they will then use the COGAT. But it's pretty much a preference for what they decide to ask for. So it's available, and we do use it universally in 3rd grade.
Okay.
It's just not represented in those tables. Great question, thank you. All right, so for the call to action, we were recognized in Brunswick County Schools for 3 of the 6. The use of equitable identification practices, providing a range of services within the program, and then fostering talent development. So for that, using equitable identification practices, this is taken directly from our from our section in the guidebook, this is how they recognized us. And this is from our pathways that we identified, that roadmap for identification. So you can see that at or above 89th percentile on math or reading for the COGAT or the Iowa. Level 5 or top 10% in grade level based on those EOGs, EOCs. Top 10% of academic performance in the grade level or their student group at the school site. So that's sort of a local norm that we're looking at. So like, for example, instead of comparing, let's say, Supply Elementary School to Union Elementary School and using that same metric to determine, we would look at Supply Elementary School and use a metric within the school, and then Union and use a metric there, because each of our schools serves a different population. And then on-demand performance tasks or portfolio with existing schoolwork that they have already created. So not anything new that they would have to create for potential identification. Then our critical action 3, providing a range of services within the program, and we collaborate with the MTSS process to make sure that we are providing the appropriate 4+ more for those students who need it. We also have each student who's identified has a differentiated education plan, and this is something that is revisited annually with stakeholders, including parents and the students. They sit down and they look at these DEPs and they determine, what's working, what additional supports do we need to put in place for the students who are in the program. And then critical action 4, fostering talent development. This is where we have worked to develop and implement recruitment practices to encourage enrollment in advanced coursework. The high school instructional coaches have worked to create sort of pathways that students can follow to sort of get information, because like when you're sitting in 8th grade trying to think about what I'm going to take, you don't necessarily think about the path that you're going to take in high school. So they have provided some materials that sort of map out, like if you take Math 1 in 8th grade, these are your options for high school math. If you take Earth and Environmental Science in 8th grade, these are your options for science in high school. So we've also created some things to help parents and students make some informed decisions about the courses that they take. And as far as sharing that with our stakeholders, our middle schools have information sessions that they invite parents to, and they present all this information. Usually in April or May is when they do that, when they're thinking about what they're going to be taking next year. And then we had similar presentations this year where the high schools came down into the middle schools and talked to the rising 9th grade parents about the options available for high school. All right.
Okay, so we are now in this Promises Delivered phase, and the Promises Delivered project by DPI is to shine a light on practices which are beginning to show positive change, because as we know, educational change does take a while, and as we're looking at our plan, we're really trying to find things that we have been able to accomplish through our AIG plan as we begin our next rewrite. And so this is what we're looking at right now, which refers to Action 2, which is equitable identification practices. So DPI describes this action as providing opportunities for every student to show their strengths and talents and mitigate systemic barriers to access gifted education. And so through our shift in identification practices described by Dr. Bennett, our data is really promising. And by kind of widening so that we're looking at students who are at potential, not just students who are passing certain tests. So this data represents our percent of students in each of these subgroups who are identified as AIG. And as you can see, between the implementation of these new identification practices to the end of this school year, we have seen some really promising gains. And so we look forward to continuing to move forward with that. The last thing that we wanted to talk about is access to advanced placement coursework, which Michelle was describing just a moment ago. This data is still really fresh for the end of the 2024 school year. And we're still double checking some numbers because we have potentially to students who were misaligned for the wrong school and some things like that. But currently BCS does offer 18 advanced placement courses, and the benefit to students for these courses is it does help them stand out to colleges, it boosts their GPA, it helps them develop college level skills during high school, and if a student earns a 3, 4, or 5 on the advanced placement exam at the conclusion of their course, in North Carolina they will earn college credit placement. And so starting at the bottom of this table, we start with 2022, and as you can see, over 120 more tests were taken than in 2022 in this past school year, and we've had about a 13% increase in the percent of passed tests. So tests on which students are earning a 3, 4, or 5. So this again is really promising, and it's through the hard work of the high school principals and their AP teachers that we've been able to do this year.
So is that a requirement to take the test?
No,
It is not.
it is not a requirement. It's highly, highly encouraged.
So
We have
what-
most students to
What
take.
percentage?
Why is
are
that?
they-
Because they have to pay for it?
They do not have to pay for it. North Carolina pays for it.
So why isn't it a requirement?
I don't know.
What percentage take the test?
What percentage of students who enroll in the coursework?
Correct.
I'm not sure on the exact number, but I would say maybe 4 or 5 students per school do not take the test from their course. Not much higher than that. They prepare for it all year.
Well, isn't the point of taking that course is for college credit?
Yep,
And if you don't take the test, you can't get it?
correct.
That
So
makes no sense.
let me back up here. So 695 tests were taken. You said there are 13 AP classes?
18.
18.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, it seems to me like there's a very high, I mean, I don't know how many, what's the average enrollment in a class?
I'd say 15 to 20. We have
Okay.
some very high numbers in some courses, and then some courses are just building in popularity right now.
The availability
Well, it
of
looks like
students,
that's a very small number taking the test. Yeah.
Very small number of
695 total tests. I mean, if you divide that by 18 classes, I mean, that's like,
Well,
that's,
each school is not gonna have all those I don't think. Each school,
Correct.
it's 18 classes
Well,
across the county are
okay.
available, but probably not each school, I'm sorry.
those AP classes are limited in size, so they won't be 30 in a class.
right.
well, she said there's an average of about 20.
Yeah, we have some very big social studies, some very
Okay,
small.
15.
All right,
in
15.
numbers.
So out of 695, 434 passed, and so then the other ones
So,
didn't take.
so the requirement to take the test, is that something that needs to change?
I'm not sure. I would need to look at the exact numbers of students who choose not to take the test. Like I said, it's very few students who choose not to take the test.
Well, we had a principal to come in one time who, his goal was big numbers taking AP courses because the US News and Report or whatever gave that school big accolades for all these kids taking the course. And then they actually discouraged them from taking the test because that was not part of the report. So that happens all over. When you don't be misled when you read those about the school being so great, all these kids take AP courses, all that. You don't know. You really don't know the true what's happening there. So
Well, if that happens in Brunswick County, it won't happen for long. I can assure you
I
of that.
just feel like they ought to take the test. That is me.
Yes. It is highly encouraged that they take the test.
Well, they have to be tested for the course. They have to receive a grade for the course.
They get a grade, but they
Right,
don't
but they
get
don't
that
have
college
the-
credit.
So it's not a, so what test, if they don't take the AP exam, there's another exam they take for the course to get credit for the course? Or do they not get any credit at all?
No, they get the high school credit.
Okay, so they
Uh,
get
Do
for
high
they,
school.
completing the
do they
course.
have a separate exam?
Well, we do have a CMA for some of the courses that have an equivalent.
So if they don't take the AP exam, they take something else
They should.
to finish the course, to get a grade of some kind.
Yes.
It might be a test, it might be a research paper or a project or something like that.
Right, so they're not gonna go through the course and have no grade at the end.
But
of
like
the
the
Right.
test is
class.
completely separate of that, I mean, like the
Right.
ACT, you know,
Right.
like it
It's
doesn't count
off-cited,
towards
yeah.
their grade in the course.
Right.
I would assume that AP is part of the AIG track, so to speak, to grad, through the 12th grade.
Yeah, it is an opportunity for students who are advanced.
So how competitive are, nowadays, a lot of high school kids are going to BCC and taking courses or going online and taking, how competitive is that against AP courses now?
Well, what we encourage is students to kind of, I think Dr. Rollison calls it puzzle piece it together, so that they're really taking advantage of all the opportunities that we have in Brunswick County. So that for some coursework, you may take some of the CCP coursework, and in some in which, you know, maybe we don't offer it at BCC or it's not appropriate right now, that they take an AP or an honors course. So we have so many opportunities that students are really highly encouraged to look at all of the opportunities and take advantage of what meets their post-high school grad goals.
Which is one of the goals of those informational pathways that the high school coaches put together to sort of provide all the opportunities, and there are links to the different colleges and universities and all that, so it's a really
I was just
extensive.
wondering if your numbers were going down because they have many more opportunities now for college credit, so.
Well, our numbers are going up as students are
I see
enrolling
that.
in courses. Any other questions?
Yeah, and I would just say, with the CCP courses at the community college, the credit earning percentage, I think last year was 83%. And again, counselors have to talk to high school students about what their plans are. Sometimes AP is a better choice. Sometimes CCP is a better choice. And I think I like the puzzle piece analogy. We want them to take advantage of the opportunities that we provide them. To their best advantage. But going back to my future NC, we want all of them to have a pathway, have a plan, and we want to get them on that plan as soon as possible so that hopefully they will finish it. This goes in with our strategic plan goal of all of our schools meeting or exceeding growth. In order for that to happen, most of our students have to meet or exceed growth. So this goes back to the AIG plan. One of the easiest groups of kids to miss when it comes to challenging in the classroom, it's AIG kids or high level kids, because they walk in the door already grade level proficient. And we're working so hard with at-risk students and students that are right on the bubble that sometimes we forget our high level kids, and that's not fair to them. And so that's the reason why we have a plan, and we put that together to identify as many of those kids as we can to make sure that those kids are challenged academically throughout the year, every year. And that part of that is selecting courses that challenge them every year and put them on the path of whatever it is that they say they want to do. So this is really important work. You guys are doing a really good job. I'm impressed that DPI is recognizing you for the work that you're doing. And it's great work, and it aligns totally with our goal of trying to meet or exceed growth with all of our schools. In order for that to happen, our high-level students have to be challenged as well. We can't allow them to coast just because they can come in and Cadillac. We need them working hard too.
Ask one more question. If a course is not available, say they've advanced beyond what we have and what BCC has, are there online courses that they can take from somewhere else that are
Yes.
to continue that path?
Yes.
Okay.
North Carolina Virtual Public
That's
School
what I
offers
wanted- I
a
was trying
full
to think
range
of
of
that.
AP options.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ms. Quinlan, you're up for a while.
I'll cruise through. All right, good morning. So our first item is for consent agenda. This is our interim nursing contract. This is the contract that we utilize for our students that require individualized nursing care in order to attend school. This is a new agency this year, but not new to us. We have utilized them before. We are required to bid this process because we do use federal dollars to support some of the students in their access to services. So this is, again, we'll just continue on, business as usual. And then our next is our Lindley Habilitation Contract. This is an ongoing agreement. There are no changes to our existing agreement. This particular organization assists us with providing therapeutic teacher assistance when we need a child that has or requires more specialized care. They are able to help us recruit for that in order to match the student's needs with an adult needs. And that again is also a consent agenda item. And then shifting to our clinical agreement with Brunswick Community College, this is our agreement that is, again, there are no changes to it. It's been an existing agreement all along. They provide their nursing students to our school nurses to be able to have internship opportunities. So it really is our ability to collaborate on that level, to utilize our school nurses to provide internship opportunities for the Brunswick Community College nurses. And then our next is our school nurse funding initiative, which we're always known as the SNF agreement. This is the agreement between Brunswick County Schools and the local health department. They receive $150,000 in funds, and this agreement allows us to be able to get reimbursement for approximately three of our nursing positions with salary and benefits. So this is an ongoing existing agreement that we have had with them in order to be able to access that funding that comes through the Department of Health and Human Services. So that there are no changes to this agreement or the funding amount that's allocated from the state. This is just ongoing. And then our next agreement is our Head Start MOU, and this allows us to be able to collaborate with Head Start to help identify our students that have those different abilities or disabilities that are in our preschool program. It allows us to share information in order to gather what we need to proceed with our child find procedures as required through federal IDEA law. And this is a consent agenda item as well, but there are no changes. This is in collaboration with our SNF agreement. However, this is our MOU that exists with our Brunswick County Health Department. There are no changes to the MOU for this particular agreement. It still helps cover disaster preparedness, communicable diseases, health education opportunities, disease control, a safe environment. They do work very collaboratively with us in order to help provide those supports for us through flu clinics, immunization clinics, vaccinations, kindergarten screenings, all of those different activities that allows us to continue with that. And again, this agreement has been the same for many years. There are no changes to it this year, and it is a consent agenda item. And
That's it.
right.
That's 6 items for consent. Anybody have a problem with that?
I agree.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Lloyd,
Good morning.
good morning.
I have 2 items for consent agenda. The first one is we are requesting to continue the MOU with the College Advising Corps. That person would be based at North for this school year. We tried this for spring semester, and we ran into some employment challenges, but they do have a wonderful candidate that would be a great fit for North Brunswick, and this would help with those FAFSA numbers and helping with some of the post-secondary conversations. So we are just asking to continue that for this school year.
How did you determine which school to use?
We selected North last year as part of the pilot program. I think it was just based on needs and the numbers at the time with the FAFSA completion and graduation. It was just the number that they were growing so significantly. But we actually made that determination last fall when we started the agreement, and then they will just continue at North because that's where we had originally slotted them. The goal is to expand it to other high schools once we get through the first year with the successful program.
So the program was in place for the second semester?
No, it'd actually be full year this year. We
No,
started it
last
for
year.
spring. Last year it was just for the spring, and the college advisor that was hired to work at North lived multiple hours away, so the commute just didn't work with the placement needs, and so it just was not a successful. Not because of anybody's. It just wasn't a successful fit. They haven't hired somebody that would be the North Brunswick advisor. She is bilingual. She's around this community, so it would be a wonderful fit if we're able to continue that.
This is a bilingual
The candidate is, it's not necessarily a position, but with the growing numbers at North and with that being a population where some of our numbers have been lower historically in terms of FAFSA completion and getting some of the college applications and scholarships, that was just an area of need. So it was a bonus. It wasn't a requirement as part of the position, but definitely a bonus.
Yeah.
And she has met with Dr. Rollison already to kind of outline the schedule and looking at some ways to go ahead and get some parent outreach going.
Okay.
Right, and then the second one is a new partnership that we would like to start with the Carousel Center. They are offering an opportunity to do training for all of our staff. We're looking at a 2-year partnership to outline how to get all of our teachers, all of our staff trained in Darkness to Light, which is a community-based training that allows individuals to be preventive and recognize child sexual abuse. And so it's just some of our neighboring counties have entered into that partnership to get all of their staff trained. We are looking at 2 years just due to, being able to do it, the formality of training everybody.
Yeah, I know our staffs complain about all the things we put on them, but this world that we're living in today, that has to be done.
It is. Sadly, it's still it's a reality for many of our students. And I am one of the trainers. I have trained in this before, and it actually gives ways to be preventive in terms of looking at your environment. So in a classroom, like what are we doing to make sure that we are protecting our students and ourselves? Like are the windows open? Are the doors open? Are we making sure that we are doing behaviors that protect our students and ourselves? So it's, I think, very beneficial for multiple reasons. But this would allow them, they would come in and do the trainings and help get trainers and build capacity. And so it's free to us.
And it does, our state does have legislative requirements that staff do receive so many hours of training in child abuse and neglect and reporting, and this is another way that we can meet that requirement as well.
Okay.
Is that a professional development
Yes, sir.
credit, so to speak?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anybody have any problems with these 2 items?
All right,
Thank
well,
you.
thank you very much.
Ms. Quinlan? Back again?
Okay, shifting to policy. So our first policy is going to be concussion and head injury, and there are just some minor changes to this particular policy. There are some updates to statutory references and legal references that are required throughout the document. There are some minor changes to general language that are just recommended, but the statutory and legal references are required for updates. Questions? And then the next one is the School Board Association has developed a policy now for Narcan. Originally, when we generated our local policy, we utilized legal experts to assist us with that. We developed that originally in 2019, even though Narcan was in our high schools in 2016. So there's just a little bit of a history there. But given that our state board has developed, our school board association has developed internal, like a policy for the state, we would like to be able to adopt this particular policy. It would allow us to maintain all of the legal updates and have one that aligns with the school board association. So that's really what the difference, why there's a new one and one that we are looking to rescind.
Can I ask a quick question?
Of course.
If you scroll down, so this is the new one, the other one will be,
We're getting ready
so
to
you're gonna-
rescind
okay, on this, so if this is the new one, down where it says who can administer, what was it on there?
That might be in our
Let's see, availability of notes. Okay, administration, the principal at school is to receive training. Only trained employees are authorized, persons suspected, okay. Okay, so did it have more people listed on the other one, like nurses and stuff on the, maybe the other one had more
So it's,
employees listed, but,
right, we were very specific in some of those areas. The trained employees, like right now our nurses do that. Our SROs are also carriers. I know when we've had situations, we do call emergency services and our SROs are nursing staff. So we were in our first responders. Those are our typical people that we are training in order to administer.
just as a side note, if someone has, a teacher, somebody has it and administers it, is there gonna be, would there be an issue with that?
So
Or
in
if,
this.
or
if
even
we
if a
look-
student had it? And-
Sure. So when, in our previous policy, there was an indemnification clause, and probably what we can do, if we wanna have Mr. Green take a look at this one versus the previous one, I know that there are some things that we could consider, adding a little bit differently.
I mean, just, cause I carry it myself.
Sure,
I mean, so I'm just saying,
Yeah.
if I was at the
Sure.
school and some, you know, if I used it, was there gonna be an issue if,
sure.
you know, cause I think there was a clause somewhere about that,
We'll have Mr. Green look at it.
okay.
Would it be helpful if, we go back and do some alignment to maybe show the differences, so you can kind of, what would maybe be helpful?
I think trained
I guess
employees
just-
in general, instead of specific positions, because there may be people outside those specific positions, like
That would
Ms.
be
Cook,
a-
they'll be trained.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah, maybe just a little overlap.
And the next one's just simply rescinding the previous, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
All right.
And this would allow us to maintain
61.5.
those,
Yep.
those date updates. And then the next one is administering medication to students. There are some updates to division names for the Department of Health and Human Services and updates to some resources, and those are both required changes.
And all these are just first readings. Let me know when it's closed.
Ms. Rosie, you have one?
So this is the first reading for a proposed regulation. Back in May, when the State Board of Education made two major changes to the reporting requirements for licensed educator misconduct. Now any criminal charge can trigger, depending on the type of charge, our duty to report the misconduct to the State Board of Education, and even a suspension with pay now could trigger a required report. So we updated our policy earlier this month to align with the new requirements, and then at the board's request, we developed a following regulation to append or to follow the licensure policy in our board manual to ensure the timely reporting of the concerns. So this was a first reading. I would like to accept any feedback from you guys, run our legal and cross references by our attorney, and then bring back in August for a second reading. And then train our administrators on it immediately thereafter.
I have a suggestion or something to at least consider. It says immediately inform the Chief Human Resources Officer within 24 hours. But there's no direction on how to give that notice. And we had an issue in the past where notice was given in a very sort of casual way about some misconduct, and it fell under the radar. And so I think we need some specific direction on how the notice should be given, and that the notice should be given to the Chief Human Resources Officer and potentially the superintendent is copied on that. And then if the individual reporting this information has not received, some confirmation back that it's been received,
Yeah.
then they are under some further duty to follow up. Because we had a problem with this.
Well, to simplify that process, I think staff should notify the principal, who then,
Well, it says
Move that on.
this is actually limited. It says here to administrators. This policy is directed to administrators. I don't know if it's
Correct.
limited, but it's directed at administrators.
Yeah, ultimately, that duty to report would fall on the principal and anyone else listed.
But I think, based on the experience we've had recently, we need a little bit more structure to how the notice is given.
All right, I'll add those parts in prior to sending it to the attorney to review.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank
And the
you.
board can give feedback to Ms. Brosey again during the month, as you think about it, so.
Mr. Thank you. Mr. Barber is left, but we need a motion to go to close now.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
So let's do those motions again, please.
Okay, Mr. Levin's not here. We're gonna do a motion to approve personnel.
Motion to approve personnel.
Motion by Ms. Cook, second by Mr. Gainey. All in favor say aye.
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 All right, that's gonna close curriculum and policy. And next up is operations.
Operation.
Operation.
Okay,
Remember that operation?
Yeah.
Operation.
come on up, Mr. Smith.
Some people will remember that are,
I remember.
yeah, okay, good.
Believe it or not, we only have
We
one
still make the game.
item today.
That was Manhattan Transfer.
One item for consent, and that is the complete cleaning contract. That is the familiar contract that we do each year. Last year, we did it for them to staff us 5. This year, we're doing the amount for them to staff us for 8 because we had a few more openings and we had to come back to you in March and ask for more funding to finish the year with. And what they do is, of course, just as a reminder, is they put someone in staff where we have trouble finding custodial. And it's a little cheaper actually to do contracted custodial than it is our own staffing. So they kind of help supplement us, and they can get us someone right away usually, where it takes us a 4 or 5 week process to hire someone new. Just as an update, we currently have about 18 custodial openings, which is a lot. We do have a few applicants we're interviewing right now. So if they fill 8, we've still got 7 open, and we are looking at another company that might supplement some staffing. We're kind of looking at how good a job they can provide for us. They're offering for about the same rate, about $23 an hour. So there are openings because we have bus drivers, the requirement that they have to drive a bus, and it makes it harder to hire a custodian. But the way I look at it is we can find contracted custodial work. We cannot find contracted bus drivers.
Right.
So we're continuing what we're doing, and we'll continue to supplement it this way.
And you want this on consent?
Yes, sir. The amount is for $285,568, which is the amount for 8 full-time custodians for 1 year at 100%. If they won't quite work that much, but that's what we're asking for.
Perfect.
It. And I think Ms. Bayer has some.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Just a couple items here which are above our limit as to what we can do ourselves. So which one you got first?
The data center internet.
MC&C. All right, so this is for the North Data Center. This is the internet connection coming out of that data center. A little bit of history here, just so you know, MC&C provides the service and the infrastructure, what's called NC-REN. So this is the North Carolina Research and Education Network that was built many, many years ago on the backs of universities and community colleges. School districts were then grafted into that, and we've been on that system for years. So this is a connection to that coming straight out of Leland. It's very close to Interstate 74 there. We connect to it. So this basically is allowing MC&C to construct that and provide that service to us. We decided in this agreement to get the recurring fee costs down. If we went to a 5-year, it was only $1,500, very attractive. So by us going with a 5-year, now we're over our limit. So that's why it's even coming to you. So we're recommending that the board place this agreement with MC&C for internet service on the next board meeting agenda. The total 5-year will be $127,500.
And this provides service for what schools?
Because
Or can you even say?
we will use it for the entire district if need be, okay? Because of E-rate and the funding of the internal connections of fiber, we will have what's going through there on a regular basis be the schools up in that area, okay? So, but at the point that we would ever need it, we could route the entire district through that connection. So it will be built just as strong as the one that we use today, coming out of this building. Is that what you were kind of asking?
So, okay, and then we'll have a similar, internet, I mean, it'll be a different company, but a similar internet agreement for the South Data Center?
The South Data Center will take on what is now being done by the building here, same connection. Our provider will simply shift that over to Data Center South when we bring it online, and then this service will take a less intense connection to just be part of the regular fiber metro connection, the wide area network. Because right now it's this location is central services and the internet connection here. Those will be separated. So this location will stand on its own, but the internet connection will be moved to south, and then a whole new internet connection will be established at the North Data Center.
Okay.
And this gives us redundancies to limit outages.
Yes, we have the ability to shift that traffic. It will automatically occur. It'll be on a, if I can find you, I'll go to you. If I can't find you, I'm going the other direction. So that is some of the routing that we'll have to build as soon as we bring those data centers up and this second internet connection comes online.
So you have bandwidth at each
The exact same bandwidth,
data center
yes,
that will accommodate the
Yes.
entire district
Yes.
need?
yes, sir.
Okay.
This is the one part that E-rate will not fund for us. They'll do one internet connection, but not the second one. They'll do the fiber connections for that discount in those connections to the data center, but not this part. This one's on us.
Consent?
That's fine.
All right, so the second one, we've been talking about the Cisco Security Enterprise Agreement for some time. Now that we're about to bring our data centers online, there's a product that we need to add to that. So this is a modification of the licensing for additional security product. What this does, we have security protection of things coming in with our filters. A lot of products protect us that way. This is going to give us what we call an east-west. We're going to have a lot of traffic going between data centers across our infrastructure. This is going to be watching east and west traffic and anything else that we want to tell it, what it can do, what it can't do. This protects us from having things that come into our network internally and then are allowed to spread. So we need to add this to our security software agreement with Cisco. And of course, as you can see by the number there, $494,460.01 is way above our limit. So we're asking permission to add that to that contract.
But we're just adding a $32,000 addition.
Annually.
Yeah.
This is a 3-year contract, so it would be 3 times that is what the effective.
But the 494 is an existing contract agreement we have, or that's what the new total is?
That's what the new total is. Yes.
Okay. For the 3 years,
Yes.
with the
You
additional
approved
30,
that, I believe,
with
last
the
month?
additional $96,000 that's being added.
yes.
Okay. Sherry's not here, but this falls within the budget, or do we have to, is there an amendment for this? Where's this money coming from?
It's in the software budget.
Okay.
It was already budgeted, it just has to be added
Okay.
to that agreement.
Consent?
So essentially, it divides the district east-west, and if something is introduced internally, it will keep it from spreading from one side, from the east to the west.
Yes, it will attempt to do so, yes.
It won't go west to east, it'll just go to east to west.
It'll cut it
It's a
in
one-way
half,
street. It's a one-way street.
which is a
It'll go
big
somewhere,
deal if
no.
it's a virus.
Yeah, it'll do whatever it's supposed to do.
The next thing we want to share with you is that we had some exciting events yesterday. We had one of the data centers show up on site. So you are looking at the North Data Center on the campus of North Brunswick High School. So it has arrived by a flatbed, we'll call it. You can go to the next one. So a crane was needed to lift this off of that and to place it in its new home. And so it'll be on concrete there. And then the crane was also used to get the generators put in place. And then next you will see a couple of pictures here. This came from when it was being built, but this will give you an idea of the air handlers and the controls that will be put on the outside of that's keeping this nice and cool and getting all the hot air out. And then next picture you will see just an internal view of what the racks look like inside of that. This will house UPSs, it'll house fire protection, all that. One more picture where you can see those racks just a little bit better. So this is where all that equipment that was purchased will be put into those racks. I can tell you that we are currently running on about 75% of that equipment and have been for a little while, and really utilized some of that this past weekend. So I can say to you that your investments into some of the systems that were part of the data center really helped us be able to accomplish what we accomplished for the district last weekend. So thank you.
You're talking about that CrowdStrike?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And we plan to publicly recognize our tech department at the next regular meeting for the work that they did last week. We had quite a few areas of our technology infrastructure that were impacted by that. And of course, we have summer programs going with students right now in the summertime, and we did not want those programs to be impacted. And our technology team came in and worked all weekend to get everything fixed so that there was no impact to students on Monday morning. And we want to recognize them for their work and dedication at the next regular meeting.
Very good.
So one of the things that was in that bond project was a new backup and recovery system. We had to use that on a couple cases. So it was seamless and very, very good. We are very honored and proud to be able to have that system. Most do not have something that complex and high technology, so thank you. Your investment is paying off.
Thank you.
That's good, thank you.
So that ends our Ops Committee business. I guess we now go to Finance.
Again, let's see if I can have the shortest meeting.
Let's do it.
That's all we can do.
I'm ready.
So I'm requesting that this contract renewal be placed on the consent agenda. In years past, we contracted with ProCare to help us address some EC staffing shortages, specifically with teacher assistants and speech language pathologists. Our principals have requested to hire back, to bring back 4 of the ECTAs that we partnered with through this contract, who did an outstanding job working with our students at their schools. And so this is for a not to exceed amount of $250,000. Currently, we have 13 EC teacher assistant vacancies in the county, and so this would address 4 of those. We do not have any current speech language pathologist vacancies, so we don't anticipate at the moment needing this, but should there be some movement, this would leave open the flexibility for us to work with this company to fill in a unexpected vacancy.
Are they out of Wilmington or?
Let's see.
Yeah.
Well, headquarters is in
before.
Georgia,
Okay.
but I think they're in Wilmington, but headquarters is in Georgia.
So the not to exceed amount this year, what was the not to exceed last year?
The same.
So this is the same. And it would provide the same amount of positions.
Yeah, if needed, and it would depend their rate.
I mean, if needed.
Yes.
So I mean, it's the same rate
Yeah.
for the
Yes,
positions.
overall.
Yeah.
I'm good with consent.
Thank you. All right.
Adjourn.
Yeah, maybe, but, you know, so,
Close it up.
close, okay, Mr. Barger, adjourn,
Second.
Mr. Gainey, second, all in favor?
All right.
Have a nice day.